Hello, Glitter Witches, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I wanted to give an in-depth review of the book of Seances by Claire Goodchild, as well as talk to you guys a little bit about what led me to purchase this book in more detail and where I see my practice going in 2023. So let's get started. Before we get into the whole nitty-gritty of this wonderful book and what led me to purchase the book, I did want to share a couple of things with you guys real quick. Number one, don't forget Wine and Witchcraft is December 18th at 9 o'clock, which is this coming Sunday. We're going to be having a huge Yule celebration and we will be in festive gear. So don't forget to check that out. The link is down below. I also wanted to show you more animal parts. I know in my last video, I showed animal goodies like iguana feet and stuff, and I was able to get a hold of these deer jaws. A friend of mine is a hunter and she gave me these, so I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with these yet. I thought about painting them, but I kind of like the raw look to these, so I wanted to show you those as well. But that's it for the other stuff. Let's get into the book review and what led me to purchase it. I've shared a little bit about what's been going on with me recently here on my channel, and then on the last episode of Wine and Witchcraft, we have Aradia, the Witch of Dark Light, and we talked about candle magic, and that led into so many other things. And I was talking about the voices that I've been hearing, and I wanted to talk a little bit more in detail about that because this experience that I've been having is what led me to purchase this book. Now, for the past maybe 6 weeks, maybe more, I have been hearing voices. No, I'm not crazy. Yes, I'm mentally stable, although some of you would argue that statement. I am mentally stable for the most part. But I started hearing voices, and I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that. So about 6 weeks or so ago, I was in communication with Hecate, and I let her know that I wanted to open up my abilities. I wanted her to help me open up this aspect of myself, because as a young child, I was very intuitive, very empathic. I know that's something everybody says, but I had experiences, and as a child, I used to hear people talk to me, and as I got older, it scared me, and it kind of just went away. And as I've gotten older, I've wanted to embrace whatever minuscule gifts I may have. And I asked her to help me do that. And that's really when these voices started to happen. So this experience of hearing voices is something that's mainly happened when I'm laying down or about to go to sleep. There have been times when I can almost force it, but I don't quite get there. So here's what happens. When I lay down and I'm in between awake and asleep, I start to hear ringing. And as I've tried to hone in on this, I also get a mental visual. So what happens is it sounds like a bell is ringing from far away. And as I focus on it, I can hear the ringing get closer. It feels like it's getting closer to me. And then it feels like it's behind me. And then that's when the voices start. Now, when I'm hearing these voices, I can't exactly make out what they're saying. I would say there's 3 to 4 distinct voices, but I have yet to be able to understand exactly what they're saying. It's almost like they're in another room and I can hear that there's a conversation happening, but I can't quite differentiate what's being said. So that's really what's been happening for an extended period of time. There are also times when I'm sitting down or just relaxing when I can start to hear the ringing. And when I try to force it, I see it's a bell that's on 2 poles and it goes up and there's a bell in the middle and it's just ringing. And there's just fog all around. It's dark and I can feel myself getting closer to it. I can feel almost the vibrations of the ringing, but I can't quite go past it when I'm trying to force it to happen. I just can't. It's like it has to happen on its own. That was a major thing that led me to purchase this book, because I wanted to get a basic knowledge and get whatever information that I could. Now, this book doesn't necessarily help specifically with what has been going on with me in my own experience, but I still found it very insightful and learned a lot, and also came across some techniques that I'd like to implement into my practice as I move into 2023. I really do want to focus on spirit communication and things like seances, and really things that have to do more with connecting with spirit on a personal level, more so than what I've been doing. And one thing that I've really enjoyed reading about is the art of automatic writing, and she goes into it in this book. And it's something that I also want to look at. She also talks a lot about clairvoyance, clairaudience, all of those things. So let's go ahead and get into the book review. When getting into the book review, the Book of Seances by Claire Goodchild, you may recognize this author. She's the one who came out with the Antique Anatomy Tarot, which I have and absolutely love. And this is a fabulous book. I highly recommend it. And the first thing that I want to say about this book that I love is that it's a hardcover. That's cosmetic. But the real thing that I love is that she approaches everything that she writes in this book and all of her experiences with an element of skepticism. And she encourages every reader, regardless of what you're looking for from this book, to approach it with a sense of skepticism, which I really appreciate, as we don't find that very often in witchy books. One of the things that I love most about this book is how she opens it, and that is posing the question, what is death? And the thin line between being alive and dead, our view on the afterlife and how that affects our work with spirit. She even talks about comparisons of being legally dead and clinically dead. She makes comparisons and gives you information about how different cultures revere their dead. Egyptian culture, even Tibetan monks, and how the vulture plays a significant role in the spirit's passing into the afterlife. One thing I was not expecting from this book was such an interesting overview of how seances and spiritualism came to be so popular with the general public. She talks in really good detail, I think, about how what was happening culturally and globally played into the growth of seances and spiritualism, from pandemics and wars and feminism, and how for the first time women's voices were being heard, and women were able to use spiritualism and seances to disseminate equal rights and growth, and how women's voices were finally being heard. And specifically, people of color, women of color, were being able to be paid and market themselves and their abilities in spiritualism, and how really culturally people were losing their loved ones, their families, to war, to famine, to pandemics. There was so much death, and people wanted to be able to connect, and these women were able to provide that for them. And I wasn't expecting such an interesting account and information that I didn't even know. Now, of course, cis white men, didn't like that. So spiritualism was under a lot of fire and scrutiny as fraud, and mediumship as a whole was pretty much disregarded. But very interesting account. I think that was probably my favorite chapter in this book. She goes into divination and calls divination spirit work, and gives you a detailed account of how you can use the tarot and dominoes in divination as a form of spirit work. She also talks about clairvoyance, clairaudience, and gives exercises on how to grow them, which I'm very, very excited about. She talks about automatic writing and gives you exercises on how to work that as well. Everything she does in this book is so well organized. She gives you personal experience. Also, again, a sense of skepticism. Another thing that I like is she talks about the need for mental stability when doing spirit work. And she doesn't talk to you like she's a licensed therapist or a professional, because she's not. But she encourages those who want to get into spirit work to make sure they're mentally sound, and even kind of suggests that maybe if you're suffering from certain sorts of mental illness, that maybe spirit work isn't right for you, which I think is the most responsible thing to do, because this type of work isn't for everybody. Not everybody can do it, and not everybody should do it. So I love that she included that in this book. This is easily one of the best books I've read recently. I find it to be very clear and concise, simple and easy to read. Like I said, she includes exercises. She talks about the different tools and forms of divination that you can use, and pros and cons. She gives you prompts that you can use when starting out with this, brief histories into each form. I really think she did a fantastic job, and whether you're advanced or a basic bitch like me, I think you could really get something out of it. It's a full color book, okay? A lot of artistry and time went into this. Oh, look at that, automatic writing. She talks all about it. Really an excellent book. I would encourage everybody to pick this up. And that is today's video. Thank you guys so much for checking that out. Also, up somewhere up here, you will see a link to a video I did about working with a spirit board. If you want to check that out, the link will also be down in the description below. And I will see you this Sunday at 9 o'clock over on Wine and Witchcraft Live. And until next time, bye guys.